Doing my guy eVTOL Weekly back again, my friend. How are you getting on, brother?
Welcome back, Liam. Doing well. I feel like it's actually been like a extended weekend. Got through Valentine's Day and continuing to kind of figure out what's going on in the eVTOL market. And it's been nice to kind of talk with you over the last couple of days and check in and see what's going on. Doing well. Hope the chat's doing well. And yeah, fire away how your day's going and how you doing, Liam.
Yeah. No, to be fair, the day's going well enough. I've started banging out more short videos again. I know a lot of people were looking for short form as well as long form. The guys that come to the live streams prefer the live streams, and the guys that don't watch the live streams prefer the short form. So it's trying to marry up and try and hit that. But yeah, I've recorded 2 videos. One of them have just went out. The second one will go out after this live stream. And yeah, I have put it in the chat there, guys. Do vote on it. Do you want me to start rolling out full time on this over the next 3 months? See where we can get it going. Look, it's up to you guys. If I get a 50-50, there's no point me doing it because it is what it is. But yeah, let me jump straight in. So we have Wild Saddle straight in there.
Yeah.
IVW, big shout out, my guy.
Hey.
eVTOL Buzz. Do you know what? Didn't we speaking with VTOL Buzz? Yeah, I wouldn't mind having a chat with you, my guy. So we'll set that up at some stage. Anthony, let's go. eVTOL Buzz, everyone eats and that. Yeah. We will speak about that today. I think everyone really does eat. I think we need to quash this Archer and Joby beef. I think we need to speak about China and the whole where that's going, how it fits in with the whole eVTOL space. We have had Autoflight demonstrate their 5-ton vehicle, the Matrix, and that was demonstrated publicly. They done a vertical takeoff, transitioned horizontal, and then back to vertical landing. I've seen the hybrid model can go, I think it's 952 miles while fully loaded. So, look, it's something to speak about. Matrix does allow, in its cargo variant, to carry 2 shipping containers. And when we talk about shipping containers, look, neither the S4 or the Midnight has any sort of capability like that. Cover X7 doesn't have a capability like that. So China are that step ahead when it comes to the cargo space. But again, look, we will speak about the whole US space, where I can see the US fit in this eVTOL industry, where I think it's going to play out going into the coming years, how long I believe it will take for these to mature. But yeah, there's a lot to unpack today. I've named the stream eVTOL seem to be yo-yoing, and they really do. Like, look, we have had a massive pullback in the industry, and then over like Friday, slight stabilization, shall I say. Joby went up 0.2%, 990. Archer 677s are on that $7 range. Pretty flat in the day, 0.15. Vertical Aerospace, we will speak about them as well, 439. Look, I want to hit on all the eVTOL companies today, really. And then Surf Air Mobility, I think I need to deep dive them a little bit more too. WHD, big shout out, my guy, and we will answer that question there. But Dylan, where do you think we should start?
Oh man, that's always a great question in the eVTOL lanes. I'm just you want to do China cargo since it's kind of top of the mind? I was gonna go completely left with it, but that's me. I'm always gonna sidetrack it. Yeah, let's go China cargo, and yeah, let's fire it away. See what the chat's saying, and yeah, give some thoughts and opinions out on it.
Yeah, so guys, anyone that doesn't know, Autoflight, Chinese company, did roll out the Matrix, and as I said, public demonstration. They can carry, I think it's 1.5 kg worth of payload, which is 3,300 pounds. That is far superior than any of our US eVTOLs. Again, with the cargo model, 952 miles. The range is extreme when it comes to a vertical takeoff and landing. I've always said vertical takeoff and landing, and you'll see it in my recent deep dive for Beta Technologies and why they've gone for that CTOL variant. It's all to do with once you have vertical takeoff and landing capabilities, the performance of the aircraft is nowhere near as efficient as if it goes and takes off as a CTOL variant. But yeah, this autoflight matrix does take off in a vertical takeoff landing configuration. Autoflight seems to be going after Beta, not Joby and ACHR. No, so autoflight, this same aircraft
Tricky,
is going
right?
for 10
Yeah.
passengers or
Yeah.
6 VIP seats. So they
Yeah.
are going for both passengers and cargo. It seems that Beta have pivoted to majority cargo, and I don't think anytime soon they'll be knocking ACHR Joby off the passenger pedestal. But they really are our US equivalent that is there to take on China. And
Good point.
I want to speak to you about it. So
Okay. Yeah.
when we think about China, yeah, we know the ability to mass manufacture is far superior and cheaper than the US. We know US safety standards is a lot more superior than the Chinese. But as I said in that video, if you're flying on an aircraft, you care about the safety of the aircraft and you care about the cost. And after that, comfort comes into it. And that's what ACHR and Joby are perfectly aiming towards. And we know China won't play a part in the passenger space inside the US. They may play outside of the US, but not within the US. But when it comes to cargo, when you get a Amazon delivery, your parcel, do you ever turn around, look at your parcel and think, I hope you had a very safe, efficient transportation?
I like that.
And
I like that.
you care about what aircraft is flown on. You couldn't care less. And if a
so true.
cargo eVTOL, an unmanned one, say something wrong did happen with it, really, it's only the cargo on board that there's a problem with. Whereas ACHR and Joby are really bouncing on that tightrope. That's where I think the autoflight could play a massive part worldwide. I don't think they'll come into the US. I'm not saying they will come in and dominate the US market. That is Beta's to take. But worldwide, I'm sure they'd be a lot more competitive than a US-based company, because the US-based company really have to go after them FAA certifications before they start rolling out. So, look, it swings and roundabouts. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think, first tip of the spear thought that is kind of jumping to my mind is, it's great to see that a opposite of sub 5,000, so a over 5,000 pound eVTOL was able to take that VTOL flight and do the transition as well. So, it's interesting to see the different configurations that these aircrafts will have in their rotors and blade configurations as well. So it was interesting to see the way that basically Matrix went about designing their aircraft as well, with a lot of redundancy again built in. That was something I had kind of heard just kind of running through and learning the info that I could on it, where again, your single points of failure, you can have one or two of those rotors go out, and your props go out, and you'll still be able to have that safe landing as well. And like you said, it's, to me, what it's showing is both trying to have that advancement in both the cargo payload. And I think payload has been one of those things that's been a big question, just kind of in general. BAG has been kind of floating out that question from the beginning of the streams, and kind of just generalizing, either the show off of cargo, show off of payload within the test flights as well. So then again, we kind of dealt with a little bit of this of EHang, I would say a year ago or so, where, over on the U.S. soil, you had Joby and Archer who were progressing, and then it seemed kind of like out of nowhere, you had EHang who was progressing to EHang that was vertically performing. And even then to, bringing in the content creator, I Show Speed, or I apologize for getting that guy's name wrong, but bringing Speed in for the flight as well. And now it seems like, again, less than a year later, we've now progressed to a new designed aircraft as well, with even different kind of mission and use cases built into the aircraft. I do agree that, with the speed of manufacturing that China may be able to put out in these aircraft, it's one that these other companies are going to have to figure out a way to either keep up with or maybe divert from certain missions. So like you're saying with Beta, where if the maximum cargo on there is going to be a tenth or even a third of what could be carried on the Matrix aircraft, it does bring into question to those that are going to want to procure these aircraft for the services. And again, the range, it's interesting to see what that aircraft could do on electric power versus also going on the hybrid range electric power. So that was something also that I kind of brought into the thought of the US eVTOL companies and other eVTOL companies as well, as where we've had this kind of thought about, is hyperpropulsion moving forward? Are we sticking with the electric, straight electric vertical and takeoff? And so again, this is seeming like one of those times where the hyperpropulsion is being proven out, and not just in the sense of kind of like behind the closed doors of the defense walls. So really being able to see the differences in the aircraft and the variants in the aircraft that they're able to do. So I think it's one of those, it's a tough one, because it is one where I want to applaud the progress in the industry. So again, this is to me a sign that the emerging industry is coming together, in the sense of we're seeing, that tangible proof of what these aircraft can do, the transition flights and moving forward. But then again, to keep in mind that, we are, dealing with, multiple companies in the race to really take over the market share and, get what the, projected addressable TAMs of these industries are. And, I think it'll be advantageous for the U.S. companies to really figure out their ways to get to market as soon as they can, prior to letting China beat them to market as well. So a lot of thoughts wrapped up in there. So some positive ones, and then some just some ones to continue to push the eVTOL companies on the other sides to look how to get to market and get the best refined aircraft and to push forward too.
Guys, I can see a lot of you in the chat straight away are US, US, US. And look, this is no disrespect, because I come from international waters, but I think we need to pay attention to this, because I think it's very easy just to put on the blinkers and say, yeah, US dominate, US, look, we won't let the Chinese into the market, but we are talking about a worldwide market. And you can see that with, even recently, with Canada doing deals with China. Like, China can get deals ahead with parts of the world. I prefer and Joby over Archer, not financial advice. Okay, my guy. Oh, do you know what I want to actually say? Let's there's only a few of you here, so I wanna make an announcement. Myself and Dylan had a very, very important meeting this week. You've heard me talk about it on streams. I'll let you guys guess who we were speaking to, but we have been sent a care package. Now, we were going to do an unboxing a few days ago, but look, I'm still in the UK, so I won't be doing the unboxing for the next few days. But we were speaking to someone very important, someone that you guys will admire. Are we going to interview them? You're going to have to stay tuned for that one. But Dylan, have you any thoughts on that before I get back to the chat?
No, I think you nailed it, Liam. I think it's great to see that, the companies that we've been following, have really tapped into the retail market, and I think have shown a true appreciation for the retail investors, and, do want to support the retail side of the investors as well, not just with transparent information, But I think also, when we see the interviews on like CNBC and such like that from these top CEOs, to me, I'm getting it seems like a lot of regurgitated of that kind of same information where, it's this air taxi network, and maybe those reporters aren't diving as deep in as maybe they can into the questions within the companies. And yeah, after having a great conversation with you and the individuals we spoke with this week, Liam, I continue to press forward and looking how to really unite all of the investor bases together as one, and really see this as a singular mission for these eVTOL companies for their success. And that's something, again, I had put up on X where I wanted to just find a general aviation flag, so everybody knew it wasn't a white flag of surrendering to the eVTOLs or surrendering to one or other companies. It's really kind of throwing the hands up and wanting to join these communities together. I think this is one, again, where we're stronger in numbers, and I don't think that the division really has to be there. I think there's room in this market for, and if we're just talking about, the quote unquote top two, the ACHRs and the Jobys, I think there's room for both of these in the market. And I don't know if there's necessarily room for only one of these in the market. I think it's going to be tougher to succeed when we're only having, again, one of these companies passing type certification and trying to roll out their specific business plan, whether it's going straight commercial air taxi or playing more into the defense sector. And I think also to continue to keep the light on and knowing that, by playing into the defense sector and to providing to defense, we may be able to open the doors for the FAA lean in and that to basically be commercial ready when that time, was coming for the FAA cert. There was even, and, I kind of wanted to hang this back and just kind of read this first part for everybody, just kind of as is. So on February 13th, NBAA, and that's the National Business Aviation Association. So I'll just read this really quick. The National Business Aviation Association today welcomed a bipartisan bill introduced in both the U.S. House of Representatives and the Senate, which would enhance transparency, predictability, and accountability in the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA's aircraft type certification process. And I'll read just a little bit more for you guys. The Aviation Innovation and Global Competitiveness Act. So if anybody wants to Google that, that's going to be the Aviation Innovation and Global Competitiveness Act. Would require the FAA to provide more predictability in type certification timelines and equip the agency with additional resources to meet those timelines, including clearer delegation of routine tasks. This includes certification of advanced air mobility aircraft. Today, aircraft manufacturers often face unpredictable and inconsistent aircraft type certification processes with limited FAA resources assigned to type certification projects. The Act proposes several improvements, and I'll just read a few for you guys. One would be bringing transparency to certification timelines. So the bill establishes transparent, reliable time ranges for the issue paper process, which when I read issue paper, we've heard that on the earnings calls, again, where there's just been some open issue papers in which these companies have been looking to basically get sealed up. So I like that. And then to continue, so that type certification, applicants know how long reviews are expected to take, reducing uncertainty and delays, which again is going to be great for our quarterly earnings calls. So, the more transparency we get with the FAA, which is going to be more transparency to the C-suites in these companies, which again is going to trickle down to us as the investors on the earnings call. 3 more quick bullet points here is going to be simplified paperwork requirements. The legislation defines when an issue paper is required in the certification process, ensuring only novel or complex issues trigger additional review steps rather than routine matters. Additional bullet point, standardized and streamlined delegation of routine tasks. The proposal clarifies that the FAA can delegate routine compliance findings to qualified personnel, allowing agency experts to focus on complex safety critical issues. And then lastly, ensure congressional oversight. The bill directs the FAA to report to the relevant congressional committees on the FAA's progress in implementing the certification progress improvements and management workloads. So, we can always deep dive on that later throughout the week and, throughout the next eVTOL weeklies. But for me, again, that was a signal in almost, again, as we're having the EIPP and we're looking at, is this going to be entry into service for UAE first? I actually was coming across and I found a great article and kind of paraphrase it. It was speaking to basically the FAA being the first in line for cert. But reading the article was written in French. So even though I took French growing up, I was doing my best to kind of decipher through it. But again, to what this bill says to me is that there's more pressure going into the FAA and being able to find a way to get this review and certification process in a predictable timeline for these companies. So for me, positive news, definitely on that front.
Christian, big shout on my guy, Howdy. WHD says the infighting is bad for everybody. Honestly, going forward, I think this channel is going to be all about trying to bring the two communities together, because there's no point trying to have battles between each other. At the end of the day, I genuinely, hand on heart, believe Joby won't survive without Archer, and Archer won't survive without Joby, because it'll just bring negative PR into this whole space if one of them fails. You think how big the two of them are. They are the two front runners. It'd be like Pepsi and Coca-Cola. If one drastically fails and the other one hasn't completely proven themselves out, investors are just going to jump ship ASAP. And they're not necessarily going to go from the failing company into the company that's doing better. They're just going to be like, nah, I ain't having nothing to do with any of this. It's different if they failed and one of them had gone to profitability. But we are so far back that if one fails out of first and second, it's going to be a big problem. So I think we need to work together. If you think these two stocks do trade in tandem together, so whatever you think. I asked this on Friday, but got no response. Archer or Joby, who's CEO do you have more trust in? I could do a smart response to that. I've only spoken to one of them, so the one I've spoken to, I'll leave that up to you, who you think it is. People say they have more trust in one, but to me, only one of them has reached out to retail investors and had an honest conversation. There was no, you can say this, you can say that. It was very open and honest. So, look, we'll get a recording out soon. I've watched a podcast you guys did, one with Mark Berry, an aerospace engineer pilot. I may not be able to explain like Mark, but I surely comprehensively appreciate and agree with him. Yeah, no, Mark's a great guy. He knows an awful lot about the aerospace industry. To be fair, Mark is a lot more knowledgeable when it comes to anything engineering-wise than the actual vehicle alone. Yeah, Mark's a guy. I agree. Joby CEO all day, any day, but was curious what Liam's thoughts on this as well. Look, I'm not saying I need to be careful. I say that.
Well, and just in the quick part of it, you know, I think to the initial question of who do I think is the better CEO, it's like the metrics. It's tough there. You know, I'm really looking at these two CEOs just as, you know, I really want to look at both these companies as individual companies and what is each individual company bringing to the eVTOL space and what is each individual CEO, you know, applying and adding to the eVTOL space as well. There's going to be certain things that Jobin can do that Adam can't do, and maybe that's in a manufacturing or design capability. There's definitely going to be things that Adam can do that, you know, Jobin may just not be as polished or, you know, is front of the mic of, and being able to be out there in the public and, you know, the way they may, you know, the differences in where the CEOs may even then kind of downstream trickle their PR and kind of how that's handled on, you know, even forums like X and, you know, to all of these companies having chief marketing officers as well. To that, you know, these are, again, all people that, you know, if not were hired directly by the CEO, I'm sure definitely would have, you know, very tight connections and meetings on a very regular basis, being in that C-suite as well. So, you know, I think, again, that we have two different types of CEOs, but if we can, again, kind of marry what each of these CEOs can bring to the eVTOL industry, where you have one CEO, you know, in Adam, where, you know, he's White House all day, every day. I particularly don't think that the eVTOL industry would be as advanced if we were not having the administration support. And again, through what we've talked about, the EIPP and to the bullet points I was just reading there with the bills going through Congress and the House. And then you have Joe Ben, who, he's been at this for quite a while. So as, he's kind of dealt with his lumps in the industry, pushing through his brick walls of the FAA. I'm really curious to start seeing on his shareholder letter, as we see the percentages and the type certification go up, getting really curious about what and really, and I'll go on still to say, since we've had the power on testing, getting really curious to see this next shareholder slide deck and maybe get a little bit more information as opposed to kind of like the full, just kind of like colored in percentage. I don't want to call them bubbles. I'm trying to think of a better word, but basically like a colored in bar of figuring out how far they are along in that stage to maybe really getting into the depths of what on that aircraft was able to get them to different parts of the certification. And then again, just to tail it off with, if we're going through the power on testing in the last 3 months, I would love to know, again, any advancements that have gone on with the FAA specifically as they've been able to go through that process, as again, being the first company to really go through that with the FAA kind of in this round of how the FAA is treating the eVTOL industry. Kind of again, I don't know if they're writing blueprint or if FAA is still kind of writing blueprint or one hand in hand. But creating a successful eVTOL machine that will be of the specs that will be needed to not just pass type certification, but also then get out there and perform, for the use cases in which each individual company has been speaking to as well.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Dylan. Ray says, by the way, it'll be a welcome podcast program to have Mark Berry become a featured guest for you guys. Mark was part of our team. He has gone off to do his own thing now. So, look, it won't be happening, but big respect to everything Mark has done for us.
Sure.
And look, going forward, I want Mark to only do the best.
Absolutely.
If Joby fails, it's all over. If Archer fails, no biggie. Reaching out to retail investors, more of a function of PR, in your opinion. That's your opinion. Is earnings going to be sell the news event? I don't think so. I don't even think it's going to be a sell the news event. I just think it's going to be a sell off anyway. I would like to hope we get some big announcements come through. Like, look, last time with Joby, we got power on that we hadn't a clue was coming up. And with Archer, we got the Hawthorne Airport, which we didn't have a clue was coming up. So if we get some big news by either company, it could run the stock forward. But if we just maintain the sort of level that both companies are pushing out at the moment, I just think at the moment, the industry is a little bit stagnant when it comes to news. And I think the only thing that's going to push it majorly is one of the catalysts we've named many times.
And I agree with you, Liam. And for this quarterly call, maybe getting more in depth with the information that we do know. So whether it's Joby, Archer, or the tandem of both, speaking more to the IGX store platform and getting, more from their words on the earnings call, and whether maybe an analyst will follow up with a question regarding any of that as well. And there was something else that was on the tip of my tongue too, but yes, it was getting a true entry date for the UAE. So again, with Joby setting, I would say more of a kind of like harder in the line timeline. It seems as they've pushed from Q1 to UAE to go to Q3 UAE. Again, not in a negative way, but in a positive way, seeing if they're at a place where they're willing to start putting any dates on a particular market survey flight. Being that it'd be about 6 months out, I wouldn't necessarily expect that to happen. But I think broadening the investors' knowledge on what has happened in these last quarters, and just like you say, Liam, whether you're hearing power on testing or getting Hawthorne Airport purchase, which to me in the moment made sense. And then after studying it up, it made even more sense to me. But the market is the market. So there's always that market confusion and the flash crash that can take place during the call. So we can hear fantastic stuff on the call and, see inverse ways with the stock price. But again, I think that's where we're doing a great job to keep a trajectory on all of these companies and see where they are at in those milestones. And then again, the quarterly earnings call is something, again, that they're gearing up for. So you may not get a lot of press release from either of these companies within the next week to 2 weeks. And again, kind of preparing their C-suite up for the prepared remarks and any analyst questions that might follow from the call.
And then W says, when is Archer's earnings? Anyone know? So that is on the 2nd of March, the day before the EIPP gets announced. So is it going to be something around the EIPP? I doubt they're going to announce it before the official announce date. And then Joby's is the 25th of March, which would be quite exciting. Joby normally sets the scene. Yeah. And I think if Joby has a really good earnings, if Archer has some news, it'll run Archer up. If Joby has a bad earnings, I can't see what Archer can do apart from a vertical takeoff transition that will actually fire it forward. Or you could say maybe a military contract or so. Anthony says lots of eVTOL stocks have a similar pattern in the last few weeks. Archer Joby make certification strides. That would be good for everyone. I'm going to sneeze. So I do apologize, guys. Maybe not, actually. Is Hawthorne Airport prior or currently running at a profit, or is it losing money as we speak? No, it's running at a profit, my guy. But I don't think that's necessarily the function of Hawthorne Airport. I don't think they were doing it primarily just because it's an airport that makes profit. It genuinely is to be the LA hub. And if I'm not mistaken, that's where they're going to start testing the IGX4 platform, the autonomy, isn't it?
To my understanding, yes on that, Liam. And no, I think you nailed it. EBITDA positive. And again, it's not a crux of Archer looking to bring massive revenue or to just show revenue on the books. But again, to know that it's not this like sinkhole of money that, again, as the M&As come up for these companies, really do take a look at each acquisition that's been taking place. So again, with Hawthorne specifically, being EBITDA positive, having the ability to own the hangars there as opposed to sublease the hangars, you can kind of, sometimes I can look at money being relative. So, if you're paying up front for all that hangar space, again, we're saving all that on the back end, and will that something be able to be leased out in the future? But no, like Liam said, even though it would not be something that would be hurting Archer's bottom line, I wouldn't look at it as right now the catalyst of revenue in the door, but still curious about, any numbers that we get on the Omen systems. And just like you said, Liam, whether it's going up to the call or hear it after the call or in 3 months down from the call, learning about the programs of records, and again, tying in with the GKN Aerospace and the UK Anduril and the next project. So, I mean, there's a lot cooking. There's still a lot going on. So it's a tough one because it's like it's easy to say that, I think that's us just wanting to. I don't want not to put words in Liam's mouth, but being. Just trying to be realistic when, it's coming to these earnings calls, and being that, this wouldn't be the first or second or third one that's been covered through the channel, and just kind of, again, what we've been used to seeing on the market side, with the market getting a little confused maybe on how they initially react on the after hours prices for the equity stocks.
I'm not going to give too much away, but I disagree with Archer pivot into a CTOL runway. They will vertically take off with the pilot on board. What CEOs have you been talking to? We can say Brandon Robinson, Horizon Aircraft CEO. I'll leave that there. Hawthorne could earn 10 million. It could be less or more, in my opinion. They closed the deal late, thus it will not start to have material effect until Q1 2026. Okay, so Dylan, we ended the last stream with a question. What sort of question would you like the analysts asking in both Archer and Joby's earnings call? Do you have anything that you would like see from the analysts?
Yeah, and I think one that's been burning on me lately, and I don't know again if it's one that can be answered, but I'm just going to throw it out there as a question. I'm really curious about the Palantir partnership, and I'm just curious: is this totally ATC related? Is this for the ontology and the manufacturing, and procuring the parts and kind of working the whole Palantir ecosystem into your build, sale, MRO, and all that good stuff with the aircraft. And then again, shifting it back to the ATC, is there any updates? Has there been any systems installed at the flight tower at Hawthorne? Has there, been any, I'm just going to call it practice runs, but just anything with building out, again, that new ATC space. So, yeah, I'd love to know more on what kind of Palantir is doing under the hood for Archer. That's one that's kind of burning for me. What about you, Liam? What you think?
I want to hear more. Okay, we know that Joby were rolling out that interactive app with Uber, and it was a limited time
Mm, mhm,
experience.
mhm,
I would like to know, is there anything further to that? I've said it in the last live stream. Ideally, what I would like to see is it roll out across as many major cities in the US as possible. And that's not because EIPP will be in, what, 5 or so cities, but it's
mhm,
the fact that if it becomes common practice to see a S4, to experience what it's like on an S4, it then makes it less weird to see an S4 fly in,
mhm.
and then less weird to think, okay, I may actually travel by a air taxi rather than taking a car. And it will make people actually seek out these trips when they're traveling to these cities.
Mhm.
Because if you live in, I don't know, some low down city in the US, you may not get a air taxi experience for the next 10 years. However,
Mhm.
if you know about it, you might be able to seek out that experience and therefore tell more people about it. And at the moment, that's what it's all about. It's about public adoption, public experience. Because
Yeah.
really, if you think, even if Joby run out 48 aircraft next year, even if you put them in 48 different cities at one a city,
Right.
it's still not like you're not getting public awareness of these S4. And I think that was a beautiful way of actually giving the public an experience that not only they
Mhm.
personally have, but they'd be able to share with others and actually tell
That's
people about
yeah.
the S4. So I really want the analyst to ask them, is there something more coming with Uber, and how that partnership with Uber will expand going forward? Because I know that Elevate OS integrates in, so it used to be Uber Elevate, and it integrates quite well into Uber app. But then,
Mhm.
will Uber Elevate really become redundant? Because Uber can more or less deal with everything on their own app anyway. Like, if
Yeah.
I'm thinking in London,
Yeah.
if you want to ride on a speedboat across the Thames, you can get an Uber to the speedboat. The speedboat will take you, and then an Uber will pick you up on the way. So then it's like I don't
Yeah.
have to download a separate speedboat app to then marry up my Uber. Uber integrates it all for me.
Yeah.
So I want to know, will Elevate OS become redundant eventually, really? And then are you dependent on Uber? Because we know that with FSD coming out, with the likes of Waymo, is Uber gonna, they're either gonna sink
Mhm.
or swim really over these next 10, 15 years.
Well, and to that point too, Liam, just thinking about that, if Uber is looking to go in more of an autonomous rideshare way, where are they looking to kind of spend their capex as they continue to, again, it's kind of like one of those things where if Joby's not selling the aircraft to Uber, Joby's still the owner operator at that point in time. But I'm also, something that I'm getting curious, not just for the eVTOL earnings call, but I'm really curious in the United calls, the Southwest and the Delta calls, and then even getting to the Uber calls, because this is kind of what popped it in my brain again, is when are we going to start hearing on the Uber calls that this feature is rolling out? So almost like getting Uber back in that growth stage moment where we are not just a 2D human-driven rideshare app. We are this now, going to this, and will be this in the skies as well. So yeah, it will be interesting to me once we start hearing that on the earnings calls, because again, I think that's something for me that will just shine the light and show me that this is coming more to fruition, and in so many words is real, as the partner companies do start speaking about them on their calls as well.
Just Me says time to sell or buy more. It really depends on where you are in your whole journey. For me, personally, I don't know. I'm a bit worried at this stage where I think without any sort of great news to pull the whole market up, I don't know. I just think we're going to be on this, I don't know, horizontal trajectory for a while. I think it's a perfect opportunity if you're not wholly happy with your position in the eVTOLs, or you're first starting to jump into the eVTOLs. I think it's a great opportunity for both ACHR, Job. Look, all of them really. Time to sell. Look, I was trying to even think of a good reason that you could sell, but there's none really. I don't know why you'd sell if you're long term. I don't know why you'd sell if you were short term, because more than likely you're down. And yeah, no, it just definitely isn't the time to sell. I hope that answers your question, my guy. Do you think buying the airport was a good idea, and why? Oh, Jay, yeah. Go back to that earnings call, and you will see me go on a meltdown over this airport. I hated it. I hated the idea. I hated the thought of it. I didn't know why. And then when we got more news, and I think that's the whole industry. It's all about joining the dots. When we learned that it'd be the VTOL hub, and at that stage, we didn't know were ACHR a air taxi business, or were they going selling the aircraft. Now that they're going selling and then being able to lease out space, I think it's a great acquisition. They're going to dominate in LA now because of this hub. No, I think it's a great idea. What's your thoughts, Dylan?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I might have been the one crazy guy when I saw it happen, that I'm like, hey, ACHR's got an airport. This makes so much sense. Because again, it was one of those things where maybe I hadn't even forward thought out, but then I'm like, okay, we have a fleet of aircraft. Where are we putting these aircraft? And weeks more in the months and months ago, I think we talked on the channel again about, just again, are these going to be one-offs, kind of sitting at a vertiport and, kind of almost like a, having the bus station kind of thing where you're sitting waiting for your vertiport, and then your Midnight's going to land there, or your S4 will land there. But yeah, buying it for again, what the opportunity and opportunity cost of the airport coming up, the vicinity and location, having the difference in the class airspace versus LAX, being that you have your aircraft partners who are absolutely located to LAX. So again, if they're owning and operating a fleet of these, looking at different security measures that one may be able to bypass by going through a airport to airport not transition or transaction, going airport to airport. And, for me, I was seeing it as something that it's, as I was always looking for building out the infrastructure, it was almost like ACHR had just taken infrastructure off the map and said, this is ours, and this will be, and just like you said, Liam, the eVTOL hub. So as we've had the partners like with Signature Aviation and such, Joby with Blade, where I think it was on the last earnings call, I think it was Rob and or others were saying that, it was going to be building out this like vertiport lounge. And it was kind of like this luxury experience that would be taking place with the Blade acquisition and the rides that would move forward with there. But yeah, I think we've been able to procure a great piece of land, and I even did something really quick, just showing people generally in LA what 126 million can buy you. And it'll be a beautiful house, but you can also buy a massive airport with a 5,000-foot runway for that cost as well. So yeah, in my opinion, it was a great buy, and I'm glad they did it. And let's continue to build it out and land some eVTOLs there. So yeah, yes, yes, and yes.
Mackie is waiting to add more positions to the portfolio. 5% or more dip is a buying opportunity. You know what? 5% are beautiful. Not gonna lie. I would wait. This past Friday, there was a theme in the chat. Had a bad feeling. To be fair, that is true. To be transparent, guys, the whole chat did have a bad feeling that this industry could go down a little bit more. So look, if you're happy with your positions, or you're like teetering on the edge where you don't know whether to add more, or maybe if you want to wait, the only thing I can't guarantee you is the price of today. I can't guarantee you what it's going to be in a week's time. So it is what it is. There are no vertiports at Hawthorne Airport and none around the construction telling. I think we have to have patience in this whole industry. I think not only with Archer, with Joby as well. I think Joby are going through a nice stage of growth at the moment, and I think the penny will drop when certification hits. This is not with you, Max, but with a lot of investors, where I think they'll realize how long it will take for this mass ramp up, this mass scale out, this mass adoption of eVTOLs. And that's why I do think EIPP does play a major role in this. And Max, that wasn't targeted at you, I promise. IVW says, while Mac overall markets are shaky, even in good news will not help. I'd wait. That's what Whisk is working on, a subsidy of Boeing. The billions in tax losses will be tax deductions in future if we actually start to make positive earnings. Dylan, where do you see the market going this week?
You know, the one thing I saw, it was on the prediction market, was talking, I don't know if there's an update on it, but it was talking about the government shutdown. So sorry, I was not as tapped into that, but you know, if that comes into play, obviously we saw that a few months ago, where that's going to be a bit shaky to the market. So yeah, it's, you know, it's been a lot of, again, this Fed chair is sitting in, you know, crypto's been crashing. You know, there's been kind of a lot in the market. Kind of, it doesn't seem like there's many stable pockets in the market, in the sense of like, I feel good of this for the next month or something like that. You know, for myself, and not really, not to be sarcastic in this or whatever, you know, when I look at these companies, you know, I do also want to look at, you know, is anything broken in the company, and is anything, you know, in the market cap. And both of these companies were either double or tripled, you know, just a few months ago. You know, if your confidence in the company was there, you know, buying at, you know, a 12-to-1 book ratio, price to book ratio, or 3-to-1, 4-to-1 on Archer, you know, has anything in your thesis broke now? And are you in more of the place of, you know, I'm going to hold cash and I'm going to be okay missing that first 10% jump up? And I think that's okay too, to, you know, kind of, if you want to reserve the cash and wait for the market in general to settle. You know, the S&P hasn't broken as much as the equity stocks. So that's, I think, something to keep an eye on as well. And, you know, we will kind of start getting into March and April, where there'll be some tax lot harvesting. So some seasonal market depression could happen in those times as well. But for me, in the long game of it, it's, you know, this is just me. This is not the financial advice, and this is just me. I've felt comfortable kind of nibbling here and there at the company shares, and you know, with Joby, I've spoken publicly and said that I've been more interested in a kind of 12 to 14 or a sub $12 purchase range on it. And you know, it has happened to retrace back down to those marks. So you know, that does open the door for maybe some investors that were looking to get in at a different price point. So again, if that's something that looks good to your portfolio or to your thesis, that would be, you know, definitely the times we are in. And yeah, I think as these stocks will, have buy sell the rumor, buy the new, or buy the rumor, sell the news, all those kind of ups and down ticks in it. Again, if anybody is specific to looking at dollar cost averaging, depending on when the positions were initiated, and even again, if you have a dollar cost average that is below where the stock price is now, are you okay averaging up because of your investor confidence in the company? And then also knowing that, again, a share that you might have been buying for $10 or $14 today, is now being sold to you in the, the low sevens to the high nines. So, yeah, I think we're all going to have different day-to-day strategies in it. But in the long-term vision of this, do I see both of these companies being able to, again, not financial advice, but do I see both these companies being able to double and triple their market caps from where they are at today? Absolutely. But I think, again, we're going to look at times when we're able to double those market caps and then find consolidation zones. And then again, when we're doubling those market caps and finding again that institutional ownership that's coming in. So again, once we hit over the $10 mark on the companies, I think that opens a little bit more windows for the institutional ownership to come in. So, keeping an eye on the 13Fs that come in for the companies. I do keep an eye on the Form 144s for general sales. And just because a specific C-suite person is selling some stock, that doesn't necessarily mean they don't have the belief in the company or that they think it's overvalued. Some of these people get paid straight in stock. So these are, they'll get RSUs, and, when it comes time and those shares unlock for them to sell, that's what they'll do. And you'll kind of see a tranche of sales come in at the same time for some companies. But again, I do look at the forums just to keep an eye on, who in the C-suite is selling and who are the repetitive sellers, just to kind of get a gauge on who I feel like is more of those like RSU type sellers versus the ones that are like, okay, I feel like the price in my company is a little overvalued today. And, I'll be at this company for the next 1, 3, 5 years, and we'll continue to gain stock, as I, go through my journey at a specific company. But for me, my thesis is still intact. I was buying in the 10s. I don't regret buying in the 10s for Archer. I think it was fairly valued for the growth company and for the basically for the market momentum that we were in. But again, on the turn of a dime, that market momentum can quite change. And being a midterm election year as well, it'd always be interesting to see how this shakes out, as historically they are going to be I think they're a little bit lighter on the S&P gains during these, the word I just said, I apologize, the political mid, sorry, I can't pull that again. But anyway, but yeah, what I'm looking at, what these companies have done, and what I think is great is we're going to get that earnings call. And then after the earnings call, I kind of feel like we start to get that ramp up again about like acquisitions, what's going on in these companies, more of this. So, just whether it's macro or individual companies, if it feels quiet, if it feels lonely, we're here for you. We'll be a sounding board. And yeah, we'll see how things shake out on the general day-to-day market. But I think both of these companies have that time to refine their companies and refine their designs as we push forward through the FAA certification process.
Guys, smash that like button. And also, if you're new here, smash that subscribe button. You might have seen it throughout the stream. That subscriber count keeps rolling up. We are on our way to 5,000. Guys, I want to actually chat something, actually.
Nice.
So, we have a few Joby investors in here. And I've actually been thinking about Joby a lot recently. Who is banking on Joby to be guaranteed certified this year? Do let me know. And is it a deal breaker if Joby don't hit certification this year? To me, it doesn't matter to me whether Joby hits certification or don't hit certification this year. As I said earlier on, this is a long-term play, and I actually think if they work with the EIPP and actually roll out public adoption over the long term, I think it will play more into Joby's hands. If we think Joby is vertically integrated, so at the moment, 90% of people don't know what Joby Aviation is. So therefore, would you stand on an aircraft that you've never heard of in your life. It's okay for the likes of us because we've heard of it. But
Mhm.
if you've never heard, if it was just Liam May sitting there, would you get on the aircraft? Or if you've seen it before, you're more likely to get on. So do let me know. Max says, I agree with you, Dylan. Long term, they all double or triple. Max says, I believe Whisk went out of business.
Not yet. No.
Wild Saddle says, we get the EIPP the day after ACHR earnings. That's what will set the trend. I don't know. I think if Archer and Joby have a bad earnings, I don't think the IPP is going to make a blind bit of difference, my guy.
Well,
so we know they're going to be on it. Now, if they weren't included,
sure.
If any of these aren't included, yeah, that is bad.
And Liam too, and I think this is something you've done a great job on too, and kind of tempering the expectations of be it FAA certification, and just like you said with Joby, whether it's happening in 26 or not happening in 26, seeing the different targeted milestones that are on the block past 26, and seeing that how that can still fit in and be basically where the company is not going to fail if it doesn't happen by the end of 26. But there was I should always say the first thought first, and that way I don't forget the first one. But now press on, and if I think on it, I'll come back to you.
I suspect that Joby cert will likely happen in 2026, but not a deal breaker for me. I am long-term Contour. Big shout out. Wild Saddle says Joby 100%. If Joby does not make it, the whole industry is in trouble since it will take too much funds to get craft certified. I don't entirely agree with that. If Joby does not, if they don't make it entirely, yes, I agree with that. But if they don't make it in 2026, no, I don't think it's a deal breaker. Yes, they will be certified for sure. Remember, the Trump administration said that they want that. The only thing I'm starting to think, guys, we said it in the last stream. At the moment, these aircraft, it's all about tweaking your design to get the maximum amount of performance out of it. I am really into F1, and before the season, they tweak the cars to get the maximum amount of performance. We need to think these are products. They're not just willy-nilly, yes, we're going to certify these. These are products, so they need to get the best product to market. So if it takes Joby an extra 6 months to actually tweak the aircraft to get the maximum amount of performance on it, just think when they get certified, they can't be going tweaking it then. So they need to make the best aircraft possible before tweaking it. So do I want them to speed through certification without tweaking their aircraft and they get a reduced amount of payload? No. I want maximum amount of payload, maximum amount of speed, maximum efficiency. Therefore, if it takes another 6 months, I really don't care.
And I think you're on that, Liam. And I love what you said about the payload, because I was even thinking if during that refine process, even if you're shaving like 50 pounds off, that's another suitcase coming on the aircraft. So, I know it may not seem a lot to some, or it could seem like a lot to everyone. You guys let me know. But yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Refine and have that product ready for what they intend to actually use moving forward after AA or after FAA.
Charity, big shout out, my guy. So I feel Joby will be certified this year, late summer, early fall. Factory groundbreaking in Ohio will take place immediately after in Ohio under the guidance of partner Toyota. Now, I do think one of the guys said it here. Joby will start flying in Dubai with or without certification. I think that'll happen. I do think that'll happen this year. I'm starting to think maybe FAA certification could push into 2027. I'm going to say it early so people can't say I have been banging on about certification happening this year. I want it to happen this year. I really want it to happen this year. If you think my whole life is around eVTOL, so of course I want it to happen this year. But I am in the boat that I am still happy if it pushes out to 2027. But yeah, I do believe in the UAE and in Dubai, they should be rolling out. It takes two to tango. Certification isn't only up to the IEM. Current paper expectations: investors are not going to wait much longer. USA will lose the whole industry. Heat will be applied. Not going to wait much longer. Look, in the grand scheme of things, 6 months to a year in an aviation industry is not that much time at all. If we look even across aerospace, we look at rockets. How long has Artemis been there for? So
think back in the day, Liam, if Henry Ford wasn't allowed an extra 6 months, or something like that. I wasn't around covering early automotive back then, but again, this is brand new. So it can, and I think that's again why, not to tout us, but why we want to bring the most accurate and the most honest, information and feelings, and kind of crowdsource that to the chat and see how you guys are feeling. Where again, if you're feeling 2020, if it's not happening by the end of 26, that's too long for you. And that's an okay investor perspective if you have that, so I think if anything here, as we, still sit in February of 26, just again, to just maybe lighten the pressure on us as investors. The company's got the pressure on them. They're at work every day, 10, 14, however many hours, not hitting bed or sleeping at work. But again, maybe to, relax us as investors, and again, know that the companies are still at work. They're pushing through the FAA certification process. And just like you said, they do have Joby with entering entering Q3, entering UAE in Q3, and then also with ACHR having the launch edition program for a path to early revenue as well, where I think both these companies have looked to find the fastest path to revenue, and then also looking to find the safest path for FAA certification and pushing through those regulations as well. So just kind of in that sense, where I would be fired up in the great way if I woke up tomorrow and both of these aircraft were FAA certified. But I just don't want to put my head on my pillow tonight with that thought of it has to be tomorrow or bust. I think there's other things that will show the or bust, and I don't think that is necessarily FAA certification as we get into December. If it hasn't happened, that does not mean that we're going to not roll into 27. Much more further advanced in the certification timeline that we're at, and we'll have multiple quarterly earnings calls that will peel back the curtains and let us know a bit of those reasons why. So again, stay tapped in, and I think we will undiscover those reasons of the whys as we get closer. But yeah, just to be the relaxed investor and to know that
and
yeah.
Let's not forget, like, the military are still in with both ACHR and Joby. So with the Andrew partnership, with the L3 Harris partnership, so much more can happen than just getting these certified as well.
Very true.
Raymond says, yeah, I think Joby will be certified this year with the strings that such a company like Toyota can pull. Now, the only thing, Toyota is great for Joby in so many aspects. But when it comes to manufacturing, it's their ramp of manufacturing. To actually tweak this aircraft for best performance, Joby is the company you want doing this. It's not Toyota. Toyota,
that's a good point,
aren't the ones that are going to get the best possible product out. It's Joby Aviation themselves. Kanto says, let's think politics 1 second. Reid Hoffman is a big Joby stockholder and is a deadly enemy of the current inhabitant of the White House. IVW says, yep, well said, Liam. All trade 6 months plus for quality. And that's what it is. Like, I think we sometimes need to forget about all this noise that is happening in the industry at the moment, that one can't do this, one can't do that. Can we just review the footage and then make a educated guess on what is happening? They have proven they can do this. It's just about the quality of the product coming out. We said it before, when certification happens, to change anything on board the aircraft, you are then going to have to make an amendment to your certification, which will slow you down again. So aren't you better just to certify the product you are actually rolling out? So big shout out, IVW.
Yeah.
By the way, I expect the vast majority of flights to be 2 or 3 passengers. Just like taxis, you won't be all seats occupied at all time, plenty of room for baggage. And if you look at Tesla, they're rolling out the Cybercab only has 2 seats because they reckon 80% of journeys only happen with 1 to 2 people on board. So,
You know, and I had a thought, Liam, and I don't know if anybody from the Joby community would want to pop in on this or whatever. And I was just kind of thinking again when they start rolling out, whether it's on Uber Elevate, or the iOS. Basically, my thought was, if you're going to have a restricted amount of these S4s, it's almost like, as I hail an Uber, I can cancel that ride or this, that, or the other. So I'm wondering when we get to that point of the initial ride share with especially the lower volumed amount of aircraft, if there's going to be more of the upfront payment for the aircraft. And then maybe something like you're also maybe having to book an extra $25 of like a cancellation fee if something like that went in. So just kind of one of those interesting thoughts of, as we kind of get to it there, humans are humans and things happen. So you would hate to have that S4 kind of geared up, ready to go, only for your passenger to cancel and then not be able to pull the revenue that you would be expecting from that flight. So again, just being open-minded that maybe the early days of the air taxi, might be the pay up front, to secure almost like a flight ticket, paying up front, secure your seat, and then you board and such like that. So just a random thought to keep in mind when they start rolling out.
then Charity says people shouldn't expect new technology to be a quick payoff. It's going to be a long road to scale up and actually reach profitability. I think that has to be comment of the day. That really does. I really like that. Charity, big shout out, my guy.
Nice.
IVW says Joby already did a simulation with NASA proving they can handle the traffic. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know off the top of my head. I know they've done with NASA the sound test. Guys, any big Joby investor, do jump in and let us know. Max says, I'm Team Joby. Joby has made a lot of money, bought at $5, sold at 19. Ooh, you got it right. Perfect, my guy.
Good job.
No one buying at 10 and 9.50. Do you know what? Joby's a better company now than when you sold it at $19. So buying it in at $10 and $9.50, mate.
Good point.
I'm going to use Wild Saddles. Where's there? You're a wise man.
Love
But
it.
big shout out to our moderator, the Goat Games. Sorry I'm late. Just wanted to say Archer to $100.
What's up, Goat?
And
hey,
one of the OGs, what's up, dudes? eVTOL Buzz, I think the taxis will be full. They will have them in selected areas and even subsidize the tickets if they need to, but some likely they will need to. And that's the thing. At the start, we may not even see revenue generating flights. Maybe they might just be demonstrated. Flights.
And great point to that. And I wonder if this was the thing that had slipped my mind earlier, but as you've done so good, Liam, again on, tempering the expectations of what FAA cert, what EIPP, let's also, as EIPP comes in March 3rd, if we're not seeing a market survey flight March 3rd, March 4th, again, maybe let the EIPP have that time to kind of manifest itself and grow into what that expected plan is. So, let's get the announcements. But again, let's be the, or I will be the patient investor who kind of will start to see the EIPP materialize and then kind of see that through Q1, Q2, and then see where that diversion may or may not come as we enter Q3 for UAE, or a faster tracked FAA certification if that was able to cross the line through something like the House or Senate with bills like that.
Then we need to get Vasi and C on a stream at some stage again.
Yeah.
Chris, big shout out.
What's
I'm
up,
Team Lightpath. Then Max says they will go into luxury tourism routes first. Think LA to Catalonia. Why is it Catalina?
You got it.
Island. Mate, sorry, Max, I've butchered that completely. Not from though. you can easily charge 500 per seat for a 15-minute ride without people blinking an eye. If they went for something like that, it does demonstrate the concept. The only thing is, but if it's flying over LA, yeah, I do think they will target luxury, targeting tourism. That could be a good show. Lots of people have been speaking about this whole: do we scale to the masses or do we scale to provide for the deep wallets?
The riches. Yeah. I don't want to finish your sentence. I thought I knew what you might be saying, but and then just to the nod of Joby, and it was with the Blade acquisition where they did, the word tourism was mentioned on the last earnings call. So I would not put that, too far out of consideration for what might be an early adopting flight and early passenger flights, and having also, just again, that added ability to not have it be just point to point getting you to the airport, but having those beautiful views. And again, that's something I've said where, I think I said this a day or two ago, but again, where you take off from your local runway and you're flying over your city and you're looking down and you're like, oh, this might be that. It's at my neighborhood. I don't know. This is a random thing. If anybody wants to create the app, I'm like, I always kind of wondered if you were in the airplane, like if a little ping could go off and like you flew over your home and it's like, I just flew over my home. That's cool. But now that these are going to be lower altitude, really being able to see the city, not from 20,000 feet on a curve going up like this, but being able to see your city from 1,500 feet above sea level, I think is a really cool experience. Either again to take you point to point to airport, or like Max was saying, and like even Joby said on the earnings call, tapping into that tourist market as well. And yeah, for an area like Catalina, I think if I'm not wrong, it's kind of like wine country up there. So as we talk about rolling out to your VIP services, the dollar per cost per seat, those are some individuals that may be looking at a $200 to $500 cost per seat as not as much of a blink of an eye as a few years down the road, being able to minimize the cost on those routes and having them be for the 9-to-5 worker like myself to catch that ride too. So I like that use case and the ones that will grow from it.
Bag says, have you reconsidered having Culpran? That would be huge. We never unconsidered having Culpran.
Sure.
Already, we've wanted Culpran last year. We wanted them on again this year. They still haven't replied to us. They won't reply to us because they just spout shite. And that's being dead honest. Like, they just make it up as they go along. So, they're welcome to come on, but I'll read them the right act if they do come on. The GOAT Gains, big shout out. ACHR earnings, March 2nd. EIPP announcement, March 3rd. Blood Moon, March 4th. No idea what this means for eVTOLs, but very interesting. You know what? It really could be.
It's at your calendar. I like it, GOAT. I like the way you think, man. I like the way you think. The last Blood Moon I saw was out in Ocean City with my family, and things went sideways. So let's see another one and reverse the universe and get it all right. But yeah, no, it's gonna be really cool to see these earnings calls coming up. Like Liam said, he's gonna wear his heart on his sleeve for it. I kind of am me, and I'm kind of the one that soaks it in, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hear it for the first time, but I know I'm gonna go back and listen to this a second and third and fourth time over the next week. So I probably wouldn't be as active on X, put little stuff up here and there, but that's where I'm kind of really grinding and going back word through word and tone through tone of the earnings calls are being said. But yeah, you'll see the honest opinions on what we think of the companies, and always reserve the right to change opinion after earnings call takes place. Because again, we don't know what news we'll be hit with that day. But I smile because I'm getting really excited to see what these companies do have to say. And again, Joby leads the way, so let's see what they have to say and get their shareholder letter out and see where they're at in type conforming in their TCs, and really curious about their entry into UA operations, as well as if they'll speak on any of the current vertiports being built out for them and any progress that's going on there. And they'll probably highlight some stuff that they've done PR in Dubai over the last few weeks and stuff like that too. So yeah, exciting times, and to set the calendar.
Well, guys, I started this stream off saying we spoke to a very important person this week. I said we're going to do an unboxing when I get back from the UK, myself and Dylan will do an unboxing of what we have been sent. I wish we could have done it 2 or 3 days ago, but
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. We will get this certain individual on. Some of you love him, some of you hate him.
Isn't that the
so I don't care.
eVTOL industry, you know? And now to Liam, you know, I say that's you know, for anybody in this community, this is a team here, and I extend that out to the chat too. You know, this is something where Liam's in UK. If there's a care package waiting for him at home, you know, we do this together as a team, and that's where we come here to deliver, you know, all the information to you guys as our team too. And I really do feel a community vibe is not just here, but it's continuing to grow with you guys. And yeah, I you know, we're gonna all do this together. So just like Liam said, I'm looking forward to the unboxing, and no way we wouldn't do this together. So just be ready.
Guys, if you want us to have a recorded interview with this mystery individual, do jump into the comments after the stream. You know well who it is. He's one of our favorites. But look, my name's Liam, one of the Husk brothers. Here's my good friend Dylan. Dylan, you know what? Another week. Well done. Strap yourself in for the following week. And yeah, guys, I'll be here again. I'm going to drop a Beta Technologies video straight away after this stream. So I'll see you then, guys.
Have a great week.